Alex, today we're going to talk about how Popeyes is taking a homegrown brand global. Popeyes was founded in Louisiana in 1972, and now you're expanding to, and we said, almost 4,000 stores globally. But before I go into that, can we talk about the chicken wars and how that impacted your marketing strategy and where that all came from?
Yeah. Well, I guess when we talk about Popeyes, who here likes Popeyes? Can I just start from there? And it's it's the cultural brand. It's the brand that's connected with people. And when we talk about Popeyes, I think there are three moments in time. There is the pre-chicken sandwich wars. There's the chicken sandwich wars. And I think there's a great moment in time where we are right now, which is this international expansion. We're bringing Popeyes to the world. We started late. Our competitor put out their feet internationally way before than we did. But that's great advantage because we're coming with new restaurants, tuned product, fantastic product, and there's a lot of stories to tell. But I guess what everybody always likes to hear is what the hell happened, right? In 2019, with this entire chicken wars, which was very unique. We have always been there. We've been there for 40 plus years, selling fried chicken from Louisiana, which is obviously one of my favorite cities in the U.S. for sure. For those who have the pleasure of partying in Louisiana, there's nothing like it. And then all of a sudden, we see ourselves in the middle of a storm. And the way I call it is when luck meets preparation, nothing happens. We cannot be too proud or I would say excessively humble because we also had our role. But we spent 3 years preparing the best damn chicken sandwich. We wouldn't launch this sandwich. We would test, retest, iterate until we knew we were better from a landslide to our competitors. And as for those who are inside and follow a little bit of QSR and what goes on Twitter and the social media, what you know in there is that Chick-fil-A represents something in the American culture. It represents this more conservative side, super Catholic. They don't open on Sundays, very traditional, and no accident that they deliver a great service to their guests. Not the best product. Popeyes is the culture. It's born in Louisiana, deeply connected with black culture, with all of the history in the U.S. and even the food of Louisiana emerged from this resilience, from all of that. And then we prepared the sandwich 3 years. We put the sandwich into the market. And the first thing we get is a provocation from Chick-fil-A, right, that claimed that we were not the OG. And to that is the most brilliant thing I've seen the most incredible tweet I've seen in my whole life was a very southern reply which just basically said, y'all good? And that was it, right? So very simple, in the brand tonality, exactly how we communicate in the South. And that shit went crazy in the internet, right? So the next day
was an SNL skit, right?
Huh?
There was an SNL skit. A Saturday Night Live skit about
You went to all over the news. Saturday Night Live. I mean, you name it. It was on Trevor Noah, all over the news, and then Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, all of these celebs started to chip in, and I think Nicki Minaj said something like, KFC or Popeyes? Popeyes for sure. Barbies don't need that shit. And so all of these things, and you can see, like Beyoncé had Popeyes on her wedding, right?
Yeah.
So it is a brand that inherently connects with culture, with people. And that tweet took the things to a whole new level. We started to obviously surf on that and capitalize a lot of those cultural moments. We worked with great partners, Gut, that are basically killing here in Cannes this year. And that's, and just how the story unfolds. There are some happy parts, not so happy parts about it. But we ran out of product. We were forecasting 100 sandwiches per day, and suddenly we were selling 1,000 sandwiches per day. We obviously ran out, and people couldn't get, and the lines started to form, and it was all about how do we get that sandwich, and the FOMO, and everything kind of, and the fact that you want to have something and you can't have it, and we were just putting wood in the fire and making,
I read it was one of the fastest QSR growth in history on a product.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big brand. I mean, we're talking about a 5 billion brand, and overnight is growing 30%. I mean, it's fucking massive. But which also put a very hard challenge for the guys next year. Because how can you deliver against that growth? But we're over that now. We're back on strong growth again. But yeah, I think the biggest growth, and the first time that it was all over the news and everybody talked about it. And to us, it's a big wake-up call on how do we stay connected with culture. So, for instance, we did the Met Gala after party in New York, right? And I remember my first experience being in the Met in this party was, what the hell I'm doing here? I'm QSR, and I put my best clothing, and still I was the most regular guy. I had green shoes and purples, and I was like, I'm really eccentric for the Met Gala, but I was the most normal guy in there. And I was like, what am I doing here? It's just QSR, it's just chicken. And when we started, right after they served the pot, because they served pot in the party, right after the pot, there came the Popeyes sandwiches. And people were going crazy about it. I still thought, maybe that's not so much. Why? Okay, so they are now eating Popeyes, but very limited reach. Yeah. The next day, when we go to the war room at ABMC, our agency in New York, and we're seeing those posts, those stories, those views, and suddenly the count on impressions surpassed 2 billion impressions. Wow. We had Tiana Taylor showing the sandwich coming into the Met Gala, and she loves Popeyes. So we hire people to do something, and they do 3x that we didn't ask them to do, just organically, because they love to engage with the brand, right? So yeah, I think it's a brand that is really, really seriously connected with pop culture. And back to your first question, that's what we're trying to bring to international markets, which is ultra hard, because it's US culture, and how do you internationalize that? How do you create the assets and the essence, and then you bring this to other markets? And we can talk a little bit more about that, but it's amazing, the success. If you go to Paris now, 3 months after our first launch in Gare du Nord, fantastic location, maybe soon, I have some friends here from RBI, maybe next year we can promise everyone that we're going to have Popeyes offering the breakfast of champions here. But because we are already in France, and if you go to Gare du Nord, you're gonna face a serious line, 30 minutes at least, to buy fried chicken, right? So it's happening around the world, and it's thanks to a great extent to the fact that we're bringing that hype around the product, that hype that Popeyes has as a brand to connect with culture. We're bringing that internationally, which is not always easy.
So how are you doing keeping that Louisiana brand that's so southern and so specific to the U.S.? How are you keeping that brand equity internationally, and how is that being accepted?
That's a great question, and it's part of our daily fight here. Because the easiest thing is you go into a new market and you talk to a local team. The first thing you want to hear, I'm sure there are parallels in any other category, it will be like, yeah, but nobody here, people here, they don't know anything about Louisiana, let's not talk about it. Or, Cajun, what's Cajun? No, and then it's like, my friend, if you don't want to talk about all of those things, which is us, build your own brand. Yeah. You're buying the franchise of this brand that has this amazing heritage, so let's leverage it. So to your question, what we do is first is restaurant image, and then the restaurant experience. We just designed a brilliant new image that is being implemented now. Our flagship store in Shanghai is going to be a launch in China. China is going to be massive for us. There are 8,000 KFCs in China. We're going after them. That's double the amount that they have in the US, so that's going to be incredible. So the look and feel, you feel like you are in New Orleans. We bring the elements, we bring music, the architectural elements. We have a curated playlist. We were talking to the Spotify guys. They're going to give us some help as well to kind of be in this music world. And I think there's another work that is pretty important. I would say the most important is the product piece. It took us a lot of time to define what is Popeyes, what is the unique properties that our product has that when we bring internationally, really travel and everybody feels this tastes like Popeyes. Even our boss's boss didn't come here. He's trained to travel around, try Popeyes, and say, that doesn't taste like Popeyes. Yeah. And we were non-technical people, just marketeers, and we just had to learn full-on how to make chicken, and we did it. So we know today, after the work of a lot of R&D, sensorial, we know what are the characteristics that defines Popeyes, and then we adapt to local taste. Because that is the second time we enter in many different markets. We failed at the first time. And one of the reasons we failed is because we never really adapted. We were never, in the first round, I think we didn't have this great team that is in here today. And we just, maybe we were not humble enough, I don't know. But we just launched, we copy-paste whatever was in the US. But now we're copy-pasting the stuff that is really unique to make Popeyes, which is the best fried chicken product out there. We beat our competitors 9-1. And we are being humble and adapting with the local flavors as well.
So how are you personalizing those? We were talking yesterday about making more personalized dining occasions, but then making more of them for your diners. How are you doing that today?
Yeah, I think it's part of what we're doing right now because occasions is the big thing, right? To win on QSR, we call those consumption scenes because it's a function of what time you go, how many people you go with, what are you feeling. So you start to cross those variables, you end up with a multiplicity of scenarios. Popeyes normally is the most relevant occasion is satisfying your cravings, right? So everybody knows that damn good product for, whenever you have a crave and you want to indulge yourself. So now we do that. First of all, we need to make sure we never deviate the attention from our core. It's very sexy, easy to get hooked up and want to do the next new thing and lose the focus and just launch LTOs and lose the focus on your core. But after we secure that, one really great way that we had now to amplify our occasions was the launch of blackened sandwich, which is just like the chicken sandwich, the breaded one, but instead of getting it with 790 calories, the blackened can give you the same craving without the breading. So it's flavorful, breadless, with only 450 calories. So take note of that. Great way to have a meal, 450 calories, delicious. You don't trade off, right? You still have a great craving with a few calories and a great price. So that's one. We're looking into breakfast as well, and also with now us in everything which is outside of the U.S. We're born digitally now. Some of our restaurants are already being born without even a front counter. You order through the app or through the kiosks. You're going to have table service, bringing the food to your table, and that will give us 100% understanding of who our guests are, what are they buying, and with technologies like the ones you guys are partnering with us in the U.S. for geolocation, we can be much more precise, understand the consumer journey, and hit them with the right message at the right time. Right? And that's what we were discussing yesterday. And people need to get still better at because you're going into the restaurant, you're hitting them with a promotional message. I remember it was the first one you showed me, a $5 deal. I said, yeah, hey, but be careful because if the customer is already in my restaurant, I don't want to hit him with a $5 meal. I want to understand his profile, and I want to up his check and not downtrade.
Upsell, but make it more personal to what he wants.
Exactly right. So yeah, those are a few things. There is innovation. There is breakfast, other occasions, day parts that we're doing throughout the day. We're focusing on our core first, building that internationally. I think that's one of the next steps. And we need to figure out as well some cool proposition for kids. Families and kids is definitely something that BK kills at. They are doing it really, really well. And we need to bring some of that to Popeyes as well.
So like with measurement being such a hot topic this year and a focus, how do you guys measure success? And even is there a difference between measuring success in the US versus some of these global expansions?
Yeah. Our boss would measure success in sales and restaurant opens only, right? Everything else is secondary. So I guess if we're not delivering our sales and NRG, the rest all gets very complicated. Yeah. Our business is very simple, right? The EBITDA is a function of those two things. And of course, we as marketeers, and especially with the great legacy that we got from Fernando, Paloma, and now Antonio, all these guys that are there, we are bringing much more marketing discipline in terms of how we measure brand metrics. For Popeyes, again, it's easy. We don't want to make things complicated. We have the assets. We know the heritage of the brand. We bring it internationally, so it's a function of awareness. We need to bring the story of Popeyes to the world and basically build awareness. And the product does its job. We know we beat competition 9-1. So the moment that people walk in, they try, they will come back. Yeah. So that's basically what it is. How do I stay connected, jump on culture, react fast, and become super relevant for Gen Zs and all of the other audiences as well.
So can you talk about some of those marketing strategies you've done that that have really resonated, the viral things, like anything recent that's been powerful?
For sure. Yeah, I can name a few. So I think the power of Popeyes to react on real-time conversations has been amazing, partnering with Gut and some of our agencies. UK has also some great work, but I'll name the Beyoncé activation was amazing. So Beyoncé launched this new line of clothing that the internet started to talk about, that it looked like Popeyes uniform, right? And they will always link and find ways to connect with Popeyes. There's things which we're not even allowed to talk about. There's the famous Popeyes lady that I cannot go into much detail. But those characters, they exist in the shadows of the internet. But we reacted on a weekend to create a website that would sell, an e-com website that would sell the clothing that looked like Beyoncé's collection. And people that were having that conversation online just went crazy. And we sold tons of that shit to the point that we said, this is going to be a permanent line, right? So that was one. I think the other one I love is like the best return on media dollars ever. There's this program, I don't know if everyone is familiar, the Family Feud. Yeah. And when they compete, kind of how to be a millionaire, who wants to be a millionaire, but with questions. And this is a hilarious one when the guy asks the lady in one of the families, what's the Popeye's favorite food? And he was obviously referring to the Sailor Man, right? Yeah. And she goes like, chicken, and the whole thing went viral, right? And she lost 10 grand because of that. So we as Popeyes, we came in and we said, no. We're going to give you a check for 10 grand because the answer was right, Yeah, that's awesome. Popeyes is chicken. And that 10K that we gave to her had more than 250K in spontaneous media. Yeah. So just very simple things that if you're really connected and hearing the internet.
With that real-time focus.
The real-time focus, yeah. The Harry Styles one was another one that didn't cost anything. People talk about budget, right? So I think people threw a chicken nugget on Harry Styles and he threw back or something like that. and we just went to the concert with. We paid nothing but 5-10 folks to go there with big signs, that told him, don't throw nuggets at people, nuggets are very important, and and shit like that. And it was amazing. I mean, again, Twitter picks up on everything. People see that. They go and you get a lot of spontaneous stuff. But that's also a complementary strategy. It has to come from a very solid foundation on brand positioning, solid ads that talk about your story, clear the heritage, and with the right channels, delivering the right message by the right channels. You got to do the basics right, but we have to face it that we all see all these great things, AI, TikTok, Gen Zs, and etc. I don't know one single Gen Z that watches TV. I want to know where the media agencies pull those charts, where they see the Gen Zs watching TV. I don't know where they... But, we're still there. We're still doing TV. But if we don't kind of refresh ourselves and embrace that, it's hard to survive. And it sounds obvious in a forum like this, but trust me that in a big corporate environment, there is still a lot of push to do the same old thing. And a lot of executives would be super happy, but so we have to do the basics, but you gotta penetrate this internet world and react really fast.
So what's next for Popeyes?
Yeah, so what's next? First word that would come to mind is China, 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 because we're preparing a damn big launch in there, but there is Australia. We launched Indonesia, Korea. We just got pictures this morning. Another massive opening. And we are mastering this art of when we open, we call shitloads of people. We don't do as the good job as brand innovators, but we need to learn more from you guys because you guys make massive events and we're learning. We are bringing loads and loads of people. It becomes an entertaining thing. And to the point that in the UK, we had people queuing for 11 hours, right? 11 hours camping with a tent and everything to get Popeyes first. So the next thing is continue to be great at product, never losing that discipline, starting to innovate a little bit international markets, executing brilliant market launches that get people to go and go crazy, create that FOMO effect, and bring culture, this aspect, these very cool aspects from Louisiana into international culture, and believe that the product will do itself, will do its job. Yeah.
That's great. This was great. Do we have any questions?
I'm going to use my MC's prerogative and ask a question, because this was a fascinating conversation. I'm curious, Popeyes, you just keep growing, getting bigger and bigger, but I feel like you have this really scrappy, challenger mentality when you're approaching things. How do you maintain that as you continue to grow, continue to get market share, and continue to kind of, set the pace for the category you're in?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's our daily struggle here because our job, we don't do it on our own. We have loads and loads and loads of franchisees. One thing, for example, we do it is to bring them on a constant basis to Louisiana, to New Orleans, Louisiana. There is no other way to understand culture and what Popeyes is than to bring all of these guys in there and make them very drunk and make them go to the jazz bars, make them have Popeyes, and just enjoy and understand, get the feel of it. That is a game changer on its own. We do our road shows. I live on a plane. My wife is not very happy. She's here today, but she knows it's part of the job to evangelize all of these people to really make them understand the brand, right? And the rest is results, because when they see the magic happening, and we start to see that, the markets that are like, here is different, I'm not so sure, this whole hype thing is not for me, our consumers here, they are more down to earth. Come on, don't project your image. If you're a boring person, don't project your image on everyone that's out there. because people want to hear, they want good content and etc. So we try to also evangelize, educate, and bring good people really to work with us. So we do a little bit of everything, and when the results come, and we start to compare the results from those who believe versus those that don't believe on the power of these brands, it's becoming more and more clear. So that the naysayers, the guys that don't believe are becoming the minority. And we're a fresh new brand. We're going to be 1,000 restaurants internationally soon. But that gives us a great advantage, the challenger advantage you mentioned. The good thing about not being the brand that's been out there forever is that our restaurants are coming very fresh, very brand new. We have exciting partners, not people that are just there accommodated after many, many years in the role. We have the best product, we have the best brand. So, the other day, a franchisee came to my office, the guy that's going to become the Australian franchisee, and he kind of, very particular guy, eccentric guy, and he comes, why should I invest in Popeyes? I said, because I believe. I believe in this project. It cannot go wrong. He was like, okay, tell me more about it. Like, unpack this concept. Then I can unpack the concept. But, it's just, there's no way that Popeyes is going to grow bigger and bigger. We have just all of the fundamentals in place, and we're quite happy with the journey.
Anybody? Oh.
Hey, I'm Charlotte. So we actually rep Popeyes in the UK, my agency. So those queues we stood in and people camping. With the global expansion of Popeyes into places like China and Australia that have different cultural nuances to, say, the US, the UK, and to a degree France, how are you guys going to keep the brand in its purest sense? Because the impact of culture driven from America will look so different in so many different territories. It overlays into the UK really nicely because we aspire to be everything that the US is from a pop culture perspective. But Australia is a completely different space and market, how they do celebrities, brand positioning, and China is a whole different game again. So how are you going to keep that Louisiana soul into those territories?
Yeah, I love the question, and looking forward to talking to you, Charlotte. Thanks for coming. You guys do a great job, by the way. So yeah, it's a great question. There's pieces of these questions I would unpack in different ways, right? So Louisiana, I don't care what people say. The same as Popeyes biscuits. When we launch in a new market, and they go, but people here don't need the biscuits. I say, I don't care. You have to do it. You can challenge. We can debate about everything else. But we don't debate Louisiana, New Orleans. We don't debate the biscuits and the chicken sandwich. So I think there is some parts of it which are just basically non-negotiable because it's part of the identity. And meaning is like an empty bucket, right? So you fill the bucket over time. So some of those things we basically put the challenge to the local partners, and we're going to have to fill this bucket of meaning over time. But then we start to understand, okay, but what's the essence of Popeyes? We look into our brand personality, what we are not. And after years now into this, we're very clear into the things that we are and the personality that we're not. And we try to transpose that personality. And we have no problem to adapt. Like in Brazil, very different artists as well. But when we talk about pop culture, hype, reactive in a way that is not obvious. We're not slapstick. We are tongue-in-cheek. We don't take things very seriously, but we gotta execute things in a smart way. It's a joke that is not an obvious joke. It's not a cheesy joke, So when we start to bring all of these parallels, and we are on this journey, the most skilled marketeers, they get it very fast. The less skilled marketeers take us a lot of work and a lot of patience, a lot of resilience to just take them through over and over what it is. And the more that, and by the way, we did a great global campaign right now to set the direction. I don't know if Gus is here from We Believers, one of the most awarded agencies last year here, Best Independent Agency of the Year. Fantastic creative work that is basically talking about all of this hype of the product, and we set the direction to everyone else. So now we're trying to give all of the tools to all of the markets to just follow this essence, and totally fine if it's pop culture in Korea, which is huge, by the way, with K-pop. We're there. I'm there. It doesn't have to be, 100% jazz. Yes, you gotta play 50 to 80% some jazz, hip hop, R&B from US, because that is the asset we have. And you can play 20 to 30, up to 40% of, some K-pop in the restaurants, and that is fine. It still feels adequate for a younger generation.
Thank you. That
All
was
right.
awesome.
That's it.